Hello?
João, João, é um olho, João. Vem comigo, corre, João. João. Pedro, olha ele pra baixo, Pedro.
Late at night, a lone motorcyclist rode down an empty road with his GoPro recording everything when the quiet was suddenly interrupted by a faint, distant sound of someone crying. And as he followed the noise, he noticed something unusual on the right, a woman-shaped figure standing completely still in the darkness. A woman living deep in the Pacific Northwest woke up early as the sun was rising and noticed something strange near the woods outside her home. And when she zoomed in, she saw what looked like someone wearing a classic witch costume standing completely still among the trees, made even more unsettling by how isolated the area was, since no one in a costume should be out there. And then things became stranger. When an object nearby appeared to float in midair, sending her into a panic, with the video ending shortly after, and leaving viewers to wonder whether it might have been a real witch after all. Instagram user Maju Space was on a multi-day hike to see a volcano in Chichicastenango, Guatemala, and while camping nearby one night, he captured a breathtaking yet eerie sight. Lightning streaking through the erupting volcano in a rare phenomenon known as a dirty thunderstorm, caused when particles in volcanic ash collide and generate electrical charges. A scene also documented in Indonesia and even mentioned during the ancient eruption of Mount Vesuvius, stunning to witness, yet undeniably haunting up close. One evening, a group of young people were hanging out in a quiet park when they noticed something odd.
Acércale más con la cámara. Uy, no mames, sí, güey, ahí está. ¿Ya? Ahí está. Media cara, güey, es media cara nada más. Mira, sus orejitas, güey. Ahí está, güey. Neta.
A face seemed to be staring at them from the trunk of a nearby tree, with faint outlines of eyes, a nose, and a mouth appearing in the bark. And while some online said it looked supernatural, as if something in the woods was watching, others dismissed it as pareidolia. Yet in the dim park light, the sight felt undeniably unsettling. A group of friends were camping deep in the woods when they spotted something truly unsettling. A strange creature peeking from behind a tree with light-colored fur, small, dark eyes, a much smaller than human nose, and thin, almost delicate lips, leading the person who filmed it to believe it might be a smaller Sasquatch or some unknown forest creature. Jody Dean and his wife were on an overnight camping trip in a forest, rumored to be haunted, and after dealing with bad weather and unsettling noises that added to their nerves, they returned to their tent.
Hey, there's somebody by our tent. There's somebody by our tent. Stay behind me. Stay behind me. There's somebody by our fucking tent, bro. There's somebody by our tent. Dude. Bro, there's somebody by our tent.
And saw someone wearing a disturbing baby mask standing near their campsite, prompting Jody to lead his wife to safety before choosing to stay behind and finish the night alone, where strange sounds echoed around him throughout the dark hours, though he ultimately made it through safely by morning. A wildlife enthusiast captured a bear on his trail camera in the Appalachian Mountains. But this wasn't a typical bear. It had only 2 functioning hind legs, forcing it to walk upright like a human. And while the footage initially looked eerie, given how deep in the Appalachians it was filmed, the camera owner eventually realized it was simply a disabled bear, raising an interesting question about whether some blurry trail cam cryptid sightings might actually be deformed animals instead. A YouTuber and his friends went camping deep in the Brazilian forest, spending the day hiking and filming before setting up camp in a quiet clearing. And later, while resting inside their tent, they saw a pair of glowing eyes along the tree line.
Dale. Pero la puta que lo parió. Se fue. No puede ser, amigo. Agarra un cuchillo. Desapareció, amigo. Búsquenlo. Sigue estando ahí. Se corrió.
Staring directly at them as something moved quickly, climbed a nearby tree, and kept watching, terrifying them enough to pack up and leave immediately. And on the walk back, they couldn't shake the feeling of being followed as those glowing eyes seemed to trail them down the path, with the footage resembling an animal, yet the stare and movement feeling disturbingly unnatural. While hiking deep in the forest, this person suddenly noticed something unsettling and snapped a quick photo. A strange figure sitting between the trees with a face that looked skeletal and a body that seemed made of branches and fur. And with no one knowing what it was or where it came from, it left many wondering whether it was tied to some kind of ritual or something far more sinister. A man was camping deep in the forest when he came across an old camper and captured something strange on video. Someone or something appeared to be moving inside, terrifying him enough to make him run immediately. And when he later reviewed the footage, it was difficult to tell what he had witnessed, as the figure's shape and movements were faint and almost ghost-like. In 2017, a man reviewing footage from his trail camera spotted something terrifying. A deer standing in the frame with its neck appearing unnaturally twisted. And while some viewers insisted the image was edited and physically impossible, others believed there was something more to it, suggesting the animal had been caught mid-transformation, leaving the photo's authenticity unconfirmed to this day. A man was camping when he heard rustling just outside his tent, and when he stepped out to investigate, he saw movement in the darkness, prompting him to grab his camera and start recording. Though it was impossible to tell whether it was an animal or something entirely different, leaving him terrified as he retreated back into his tent to pray and wait in silence until it passed, with whatever happened for the rest of that night never revealed. Amateur photographer Mark Baker was sitting in his van near Guildford, England, testing his new camera timer to capture the morning fog. And when he later reviewed the automatic shots, one image stood out, a pale, human-shaped figure glowing faintly through the mist, which he insisted wasn't edited as the black specks were only dirt on his windshield, while the figure appeared far beyond the glass. And the photo's location, the Mount, once a site for public executions, left many wondering whether it was just a trick of the light or if Mark's camera had captured one of the lost souls said to haunt those misty hills. This black and white photograph shows Barbara Kent and her friends cooling off in a river near Rodolfo, New Mexico, during the summer of 1945. At first glance, it appears to capture a carefree childhood moment from a camp session. Yet behind those smiles, a tragedy was already unfolding. On July 16, 1945, the world's first atomic bomb erupted at the Trinity site, only about 40 to 50 miles away. The blast illuminated the pre-dawn sky and jolted the girls awake in their bunks. Hours later, white flakes drifted down across the mountains. Believing it was an unusual July snowfall, the campers rushed outside in their swimsuits, laughing as they caught the flakes on their tongues and smeared them onto their faces. Barbara later remembered thinking the flakes felt odd, warm instead of cold. Without realizing it, they were playing in radioactive fallout. Officials attributed the explosion to an ammunition mishap and promised there was no danger. No warnings were issued and no evacuations took place. Of the 12 girls at the camp, Barbara Kent was the only one who lived into middle age. Most of her friends died young, many before reaching 40. Barbara herself developed 4 separate cancers over her lifetime. Her teacher and even her mother, who remained nearby, also died from cancer. What once looked like a joyful photo of Barbara and her friends now stands as a haunting reminder of innocence lost, children unknowingly celebrating in a radioactive snowstorm that would define the rest of their lives. Dan Ventures Outdoors normally posts quiet camping content, but this outing was nothing like the usual, as he and his friend set up their gear deep in the woods, drank a couple of beers, and settled down for the evening. And when the forest grew still, Dan started hearing footsteps circling the tent, followed by a faint whistle drifting through the darkness.
I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like there's someone or something walking around.
Hello? Hello?
I'm talking about. Just had a quick look. I'm not getting out. I think it might just be like an animal or something. Can't hear anything now. But it sounded like human footsteps.
And although he called out, no one responded and his friend hadn't moved, leaving something out there, maybe an animal, maybe something else, turning a calm night into a memory that still unnerves him today. A man was exploring an armory by himself when he stumbled upon something disturbing, a newly dug pit in the dirt. The area was isolated, fenced off, and surrounded by brush. He took a picture, phoned a friend, and rushed back to his vehicle. Authorities suggested it might have been made by someone searching for artifacts, but the pit looked far too deep for that explanation. They placed trail cameras around the site and told him not to return. He never received updates, yet that pit still unnerves him today. During a summer camp session, a group of kids snapped this photo, and at first glance, everything looked perfectly ordinary with smiling faces and tools in hand. But when you zoom in, a face appears between 2 girls on the right that looks semi-transparent and doesn't resemble any of the other children, and everyone who was there is already accounted for. So who was it? With some saying it's just lighting and shadows, a classic case of pareidolia, though the detail seems too precise to ignore. What's your take? Outdoor Tom, Luke's son from Outdoor Boys, joined his dad on a 4-day fishing and camping trip along the Togeek River. On the 3rd day, Tom wandered over to a nearby spot, and that's when everything shifted.
I was right next to him.
Yeah, he was coming around the corner. You see that? You scared him.
Why is he scared of me?
He saw you and he just came running upstream. Yeah, here, come here. I got a fish on.
Okay. So when I saw him, he was staring right at me. He looked a little bit smaller, so he may have been younger. Oh, I don't.
You want to come hang out with me instead of over there by the bear?
Yeah. Have you had stuff happen to you like that before? Well, we do not tell mom. We do not tell mom. Until once we get back.
A bear suddenly appeared just a few feet in front of him. Shocked, Tom sprinted back to his dad, clearly shaken. Luke kept calm, staying steady as the bear eventually moved away. They chose to continue fishing, but agreed on one thing. Mom wasn't hearing about this until they got home. A couple from Greenville, South Carolina, snapped a few pictures while spending the day out together. Later on, they noticed an odd figure in the background. When they zoomed in, it looked as if it was floating slightly above the ground. They hadn't noticed anything unusual when the photo was taken. After sharing it on Facebook, a local messaged them days later with an explanation. The figure was actually just a patch of standing water that had darkened over time. A bit anticlimactic, but at least the mystery had an answer. YouTuber Pasha set out to explore an abandoned forest village, a place locals said was haunted by an elderly woman who roamed after dark. As he made his way through the trees, he began spotting wooden symbols hanging overhead, some wrapped with strands of hair and bits of string. Before long, pieces of candy started appearing along the trail, guiding him to a house covered in the same unsettling symbols. He had just settled inside when he heard something moving outside. When he rushed out, the area was completely empty. Disturbed, Pasha left the forest right away, still unsure who or what had been out there with him that night. While staying at a remote cabin tucked inside thick forest, a hiker had a terrifying moment one morning. As he sat down for breakfast, a massive black bear suddenly stood up against the glass door, staring straight into the room. It was later identified as a tagged problem bear that had been moved away from neighborhoods multiple times. Drawn by the smell of food, it pressed against the door for a moment before eventually giving up and wandering back into the trees. Shaheen and his friends were exploring an abandoned village buried deep in the Turkish forests when they came across a deserted house with a troubling history. It had belonged to a man who disappeared without any explanation, and locals believed the place had been haunted ever since. They spoke of strange sounds, unsettling cries, and dark shapes appearing in the windows after sunset. Inside, the group found broken furniture, scattered debris, and strange carvings etched into the walls. As they walked farther through the rooms,
Abi sesler duyuyorum. Bir şey Evet.
Şu camı kesildim ben ya. Sanki birisi dışarıdan izliyormuş gibi gelip duruyor. Tövbe estağfurullah.
Abi kalabalıkmışız hissini bir tek ben almıyorum değil mi?
Bak be.
Bir şey söyleyeyim mi?
Bende de var o.
Aşırı kalabalığız biz şu an.
unnerving noises began to echo around them. Moments later, a sudden terrifying scream pierced the air, sending them fleeing in panic.
Çık 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 çık. Çık abi çık.
Abi!
Çık 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 çık.
Abi bir şey oluyor.
Abi bir şey oluyor.
Once outside, they noticed something moving in the window.
Allah, düşüyordum lan. Çık çık. Bir daha şu evin içine bakacağım. Arkadaşlar. Zibikini bitillahi tam adım işaretim hala. Oğlum perde oynuyor lan. Görmüyor musun? Siktir ya. La yürü. Arabanın oraya yürü. Yürü arabaya yürü.
They quickly left the scene.
Once outside, they noticed something shifting behind a curtain, a chilling reminder that they hadn't been alone in that house. A couple was driving through an old battlefield near a middle school around 9:30 p.m. when a heavy fog started creeping over the road. Growing uncomfortable, the woman asked her partner to head back, and before leaving, she snapped a few photos. As they turned the car around, both the headlights and the GPS suddenly shut off, plunging them into darkness for almost 30 seconds. When the systems finally came back on, they drove off quickly. Later that night, while looking through the pictures, they spotted something unsettling. The last photo taken before everything went dark showed a vague figure standing in the fog near the fence. A backpacker hiking through a remote region came across an underground tunnel concealed beneath the terrain. Curiosity took over, and he decided to check it out. After climbing down into a small chamber, faint sounds began echoing through the darkness, suggesting he wasn't alone. The noises grew louder and more unsettling with each step, filling him with dread. Then the footage cut off without warning, leaving the source of those sounds unknown. Viewers were left wondering whether it had been an animal, another person, or something far more disturbing. While hiking through a remote area, a photographer came across an abandoned church and decided to explore inside. As he examined the old, faded pictures on the walls, something strange caught his eye, sending him sprinting out in panic. Later, when he reviewed the clip in slow motion, a mysterious figure appeared in the window, watching him. In another frame, captured just before he fled, the same figure seemed to be sitting on a bench. The unsettling discovery left one lingering question: who or what had been inside that church? During a trip, a man found himself in a terrifying situation when a venomous snake slipped inside his shirt. Too afraid to move, he stayed perfectly still as the snake wrapped itself around his arm. His friend acted fast, carefully pinching the sleeve to locate exactly where the snake was positioned. With steady hands, they used scissors to cut through the fabric, distracting the snake just long enough to create a safe opening. In one tense final move, they managed to lift it out without injury, avoiding what could have become a dangerous emergency. YouTuber Dylan Spratt often visits cemeteries in hopes of making contact with spirits. During one of his trips, he believed he connected with the spirit of a young girl buried directly beneath where he was sitting. After receiving what he interpreted as direct responses,
so there is a child resting space literally right under, right. So I'm sitting up on a platform on this thing. Are you the child that's right here beneath me? You know it?
he correctly stated her name and then showed her gravestone on camera. But viewers later noticed something even more disturbing earlier in the recording: a faint, translucent figure moving quickly between the trees behind him. The shape shifted too fast and too clearly to brush off as a lighting glitch, leaving many wondering whether he had actually captured a real spirit on film. A Reddit user who goes by Swedish Blueberries shared a photo taken 4 years earlier while hanging out at a park at night after drinking with a friend. The picture, first posted on Instagram, began attracting attention when someone pointed out something strange in the background. After taking a closer look, the uploader saw it too, a dark, shadowy figure that some people suggested could be a ghost. Still, the user admitted it might have simply been a person, given how drunk they were that night. What made the image even more unsettling was that the figure seemed to be unclothed, adding an eerie layer to the mystery, no matter the explanation. After wrapping up a long hike, a man returned to his truck and was stunned to see a bear sitting inside the vehicle.
Alright, go ahead and unlock it. Sure.
No one could figure out how it had managed to get in, whether it followed a smell or was simply wandering around out of curiosity. With some help, he slowly opened the door to give the bear a clear way out. After a tense moment, the animal bolted from the truck and disappeared into the woods. Both the man and the bear seemed equally relieved that the encounter ended safely. A couple was relaxing with mimosas in the woods near a lakeshore when something completely unexpected happened.
Are you lying to me? No, it's right there. You can still see it. Is it gonna get me? Oh my god.
Out of nowhere, a kangaroo burst through the trees and bounded straight toward them. Startled, they immediately ran, and the recording cut off shortly after. Fortunately, since the clip later surfaced online, it's clear they got away safely, though the encounter was enough to turn a peaceful morning into a sudden, adrenaline-charged sprint. While hiking near Colorado's Rocky Mountain National Park, a hiker spotted something odd moving between the trees and quickly began filming. The clip appeared to show a tall, dark, fur-covered figure making its way through the forest with slow, purposeful steps that looked almost human. Its size and upright posture drew attention once the video was shared online, with many questioning whether it could be possible Bigfoot evidence. Unsure how safe the situation was, the hiker decided to leave the area soon after recording the mysterious figure. Eric was walking home in Reykjavik, Iceland, when he spotted something enormous hovering over a small hill near his neighborhood. A silent, dark object hung motionless in the air, looking completely out of place. The atmosphere grew tense, and everything around him seemed unusually quiet. Then, without any warning, the object disappeared. Eric later posted the footage online, where opinions were divided. Many brushed it off as edited or mistaken, while others couldn't help but wonder, what if it wasn't? While hiking through a remote area, a Reddit user discovered an abandoned school tucked away inside a long-forgotten village. Thick, overgrown vegetation surrounded the structure, giving the place an eerie, unsettling feel. But that wasn't the only thing he documented. After sharing the photos online, other users pointed out a faint, ghost-like figure standing in the doorway. The chilling detail left many wondering what he had actually encountered out there that day. A man searching for a missing woman near a cave found himself in an unsettling situation when strange sounds began echoing from deep within. The passage was completely flooded, its dark, murky water concealing whatever might have been beneath the surface. What happened afterward, and whether the woman was ever found, remains unknown. The mystery still lingers, leaving anyone who hears the story uneasy about what could have been lurking inside that cave. While out on a hike, someone captured a strange video overlooking the city of Kunming, China. Faint blue lights appeared in the sky, shifting in shape, breaking apart, and then reforming again. Witnesses said the movement looked unnatural, unlike anything they had ever seen before. Similar sightings have been reported in other regions around the globe, leaving many to question whether all of these events could truly be chalked up to coincidence. Caver Andrew Smith was exploring an underwater cavern when everything suddenly shifted. A fast-moving tide surge caused the water level to rise, flooding the tight passageways and cutting off his exit. As the cave filled rapidly, the current slammed toward the staircase entrance, leaving him with barely any space to breathe. The danger escalated with every passing second. Fortunately, because the footage later appeared online, it's clear that Andrew ultimately managed to escape unharmed. Someone was out in the woods when something unnerving occurred. At first, the noise sounded like an animal's scream. But the person recording believed it was a man yelling for help. They said it didn't resemble anything they had heard before. While the recorder insisted it was a human voice, others argued the sound may have come from a large animal instead. Yet one troubling question remains. If they truly thought it was a person in danger, why didn't they go investigate? While spending time outside, a person started recording the sky after something unusual caught their eye. Strange shapes appeared and faded within the clouds, shifting in ways that didn't seem natural. Some viewers said it was probably just a camera issue, lens flare, or sunlight bending through the clouds. But others disagreed. The odd formations left many questioning whether they were only seeing a visual trick or if something more was behind what they captured. YouTubers, KBC ghost hunters, were exploring a location known for repeated UFO sightings when a strange sound immediately caught their attention. As they continued moving through the area, they began to feel as though someone or something might be close by. Moments later, they spotted a glowing figure in the distance.
Olha lá, velho, mano. Tem alguma coisa ali? Irmão, tô vendo. Não, pera aí, mano, ela tá focando. Alô? Pedro. Alô? João, é um olho, João. Pera comigo, corre, João.
Sending a surge of fear through the group, they searched for its source but found nothing, just an eerie stillness, broken by another unsettling noise in the dark. The experience left them shaken, with more questions than answers. Two friends were staying at an Airbnb when they heard something heavy sprinting across the roof late at night. Curious but uneasy, one of them grabbed a camera and stepped outside to investigate.
Alright, let's see. What the fuck is that? What in the fuck? Wait a minute.
Hey!
Sweeping his flashlight along the roofline, he spotted something unusual shifting in the dark. Wanting a closer look, he climbed up, but by the time he reached the top, whatever had been there had already disappeared.
Where the hell did it go?
What he didn't realize was that the figure seemed to be watching from a concealed spot nearby. Some viewers believe it could have been the Rake, a pale, creature-like figure from online lore said to ambush without warning. Others think it might have been a person hiding or even a staged scene. Still, the question remains, was he only moments away from being attacked? Jesse was flying his drone over Salt River Canyon, scanning old mine shafts and cave openings along the cliffs when he decided to hike down and inspect one of the spots himself. As he explored the area on foot, his drone identified two more shafts nearby, but something else caught his eye.
I found exactly what I was looking for. This was the blue Mazda that I found last year, and it raised some great concerns in the comments section of my other video. If you look closely, you can see that 3 of the 4 car doors have been opened, as if after the crash, who was ever in the car made it out. But this is where the plot thickened. I scanned the guardrails to see if any sections of them had been replaced, or if some of them looked newer than others, to indicate this is where the car plowed through the rail. But I couldn't find any evidence of that. And if the Mazda did plow through the rails and Arizona Department of Transportation did fix them, why would they not remove the car? There are dozens of other car wrecks down here. Most of them are probably 30, 40 to 50 years old and further down the canyon, so I can see why they wouldn't remove those. But why not this one? And on top of that, I scoured the internet for hours looking for any articles or news headlines that talked about a blue Mazda crashing into the Salt River Canyon, but nothing surfaced. I did do my best to zoom in and see if there were any bodies still in the car, but from what I could see, there weren't. But there is always the trunk. Now, what I did see were 4 tires with some pretty good looking tread and a shiny catalytic converter. Just kidding. Or am I? But when I do come back out here to check out the mines, I'm gonna try to hike down to the Mazda and take a closer look, see if there is anything in the trunk, and try to pull a license plate or VIN number. But what do you guys think happened here? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. My money says that the car was stolen and whoever was driving the car was either drunk or a really crappy driver. And once the car landed down in the canyon, they all crawled out, probably unscathed, and decided that although it's an unfortunate situation that they're in, it would be best if they did not report it. And most importantly, not say a word to anyone.
Sitting near the mines was a blue Mazda at the bottom of the canyon, the very same car he had seen there the previous year. The discovery raised questions he still can't explain. 3 of the 4 doors appeared to be open, as if the passengers had climbed out after some kind of crash, yet there were no broken guardrails above, no signs of impact, and no official record of an accident ever occurring there. Jesse searched online for any mention of a blue Mazda going over the edge but found nothing. When he reviewed the footage carefully, he confirmed there were no bodies inside, though the trunk remained closed, leaving one final unknown. The tires looked surprisingly intact, and the vehicle's exterior was oddly well preserved. Jesse planned to return for an in-person inspection, hoping to spot a license plate or VIN. Until then, he could only guess at what happened. Was it stolen? Abandoned? The result of reckless driving? Whatever the answer, the unresolved mystery surrounding that untouched, unreported car remains as haunting as the canyon itself. Crews were dispatched to what was first reported as a routine grass fire, but when they got there, they found something far more unusual. Flames shooting up from the ground in the middle of a heavy rainstorm. A lightning strike had hit a ditch, rupturing both a gas line and a water pipe. As the water and gas mixed, fire spread across the flooded trench, creating a surreal sight where rainfall and open flames existed.
Check out what this lightning strike caused. It hit this ditch right here. It busted a gas line and a water line. We got called over here for a grass fire in the pouring rain, which we thought that's just highly unusual. But just look at it. You got a water line. It's broken here too. This is all by lightning strike. Broke this whole water line, just pouring up right here. And gas. Look at the gas. Is that not crazy? Anyway, we're not going to put it out because it'd just be fumes of gas everywhere. We just leave it burning. And they will come over here eventually and turn that off for us. If it starts getting into the trees or something like that, which it won't, you know, because it's raining outside. But we'll put it out as necessary, but we're just going to leave it burning like that. But I've never seen anything like it before. That's pretty unusual.
At the same time, firefighters described it as one of the strangest calls they had ever responded to. They chose not to extinguish the fire right away, explaining that doing so would only force gas fumes through the surrounding neighborhood. Instead, they waited for the gas company to shut off the line, relying on the rain to help keep the flames in check. Watching bright orange fire flicker through flowing rainwater felt almost unreal, a rare moment when natural forces collided in a way no one expected. On March 17, 2025, Wallace spent his first solo night in Batherthy Glen, a remote part of Scotland's West Highlands said to be haunted by James of the Glen. After pitching his shelter, making dinner, and gathering firewood, he settled in for the night. Hours later, he woke with a strange feeling, as though a hand were pressing firmly on his shoulder.
During the night, I had a bit of a spooky experience. I woke up with what felt like a hand on my shoulder. I initially thought it would be the dog or one of the cats. Then I got a stark reminder I was actually in a bothy alone. I then thought it maybe be a mouse or a rat, so I flicked my shoulder to get it off. The weight lifted, but then nothing happened. No squeak or no noise of it landing on the floor.
Assuming it was his dog or some nearby animal, he flicked his shoulder, but there was no sound, no movement, and nothing beside him. Completely alone in the darkness, the sensation disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. By morning, Wallace admitted the experience had rattled him. He later explained that he had always viewed bothing as something social, a night shared with friends around a fire, not an activity to do alone. The unsettling moment in the middle of the night, combined with the local belief that the spirit of James of the Glen still lingered in the area, convinced him it was likely his mind playing tricks on him. Still, he acknowledged the incident affected him more than he expected, and he decided he wouldn't attempt another solo stay. That's it for tonight. Which moment creeped you out the most? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story? Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.